Hello and welcome back to the Meraklis Being series and the first one in 2022. I'm your host and self awareness coach Shweta Shivraman, and this is a show where we discover, learn, and implement lessons from others' life journeys. Others who I believe epitomize miraculous in its true spirit. Individuals who live life to the fullest, who worked hard on themselves to reach where they are, and who are passionate in what they do. Today's speaker is someone I first met in a breathwork session on inner peace and have had the chance and the joy of staying connected ever since. Join me in welcoming Remi, the founder of Create Balance Method, a breathwork facilitator, a health tech consultant, and a well-being coach. Hi, Remi. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Before we go any further and talk about breathwork or transformation, would you want to first share your journey with the audience?
Sure. You gave me such a apt introduction, which is perfect. I began my journey with breathwork about maybe 13 years ago in New York City when I was living there. Kind of fell across breathwork at a yoga studio that I lived close by. I was going through some stuff at work at that point in time, and there was a sign that said, um, you know, come breathe with us. And I just thought it was the most ridiculous and time wasting and money wasting thing because I already know how to breathe. I read the testimonials, but I was just a little bit thrown off by how incredible people's experiences were. And I was just like, okay, if they're just breathing, how can they come to these states of pure bliss that they're claiming to have experienced, or how can it have resolved, their trauma? And so I was very, very curious. So I went into that session and it just blew my mind. I was able to connect with a part of myself that I really didn't know existed, but lived deep inside of me. From that point in time onwards, I realized that there was so much more to myself than I was having access to. And that one session of breath work had showed that to me. So I became really regular. I was working a very corporate job, living a very corporate life, having everything on the resume that, as an outsider, you'd be like, wow, she's really got her stuff together. Fancy job, fancy apartment, fancy title, making a lot of money. But I was still deeply unsatisfied. And breathwork was the ability, the thing that was able to help me bridge um, kind of what I needed to do in order to just find myself some more peace of mind. Um, but it also means letting go of the stuff that didn't serve me, like that career path, or being able to just claim more of my authenticity, being more myself, showing up more truly to how I actually felt. So it was almost a way where I was able to shed layers. And of course, that doesn't come on one weekend, it takes years. And so since then, my journey of breath work has been a very intricate and interesting relationship. Fast forward to where we are today, 10, 13 years later, I am now very much focused in the health space as a breathwork coach, a meditation coach. Um, I like to bridge the world of science, so new research, with all of these ancient tools. That's the uniqueness of my offering. And then I'm also an advisor for a lot of health tech startups in the US and in Southeast Asia.
Right, right. I think I love. You're connecting with us from Bangkok, right? I think you've lived across the world.
Yeah, I'm home now in Bangkok with my family.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. And if we were to go back, to that transformation, transition from your corporate America role to being an entrepreneur, breathwork facilitator, and a coach, how did that transition happen? You said it didn't happen over a weekend; it was peeling the layers over the years. But how was the journey for you?
It was hard, if I can put it mildly. It was a lot of unlearning, basically. So I was so set in how I thought my life and my relationships and my body and my, my job needed to look, that things were not going my way, and that was causing me a lot of uncomfort and pain and suffering. So it was about unlearning that there's no one way that my life is supposed to look, and instead I needed to see what was in front of me and realize that for me specifically, I had agency, and I've always had agency in the sense where the reason why I am where I am today is also a lot of it because of the choices that I made and because of the experiences that I've been through, either sometimes, intentionally or unintentionally, right? But it's cause and effect, and it's led me here. Um, so first of all, a lot of it I am responsible. Also, second part is if I don't like what I see, I can't just marinate in the suffering, but I have to do something about it, right? So what do I do about it? How do I do about it? That takes a lot of confidence and a lot of patience, because when you're in that pain zone, you're just so frustrated. But for me, it was about sort of understanding my patterns, seeing why I was always constantly triggered, seeing things that worked for me, being able to set boundaries, being able to understand what I needed, understanding and even sort of reevaluating the things that I wanted. Like, do I actually want this job, or have I just been conditioned by society to climb the corporate ladder and get to, X amount of figures for my salary each month, right? Um, so it was about rediscovering what I truly, truly wanted, minus the opinions of family and parents and society and what the media says. So it was a lot of unlearning, shutting off all of those conditionings, and then relearning. And this was done through a lot of things. It was done through yoga, through therapy, through meditation, but mostly my main tool was breath work.
Right, right. And thank you for sharing that honestly, right? I think a lot of us hear sugar-coated stories of how transformation happens so smoothly. But actually, in that period when you're there, it's quite confusing, quite ambiguous, quite vague.
Oh
And
yeah.
right, and for
Mm-hmm.
people who had like a charted path set before them, like if you were in the corporate, you had sort of a path already created for you, and as probably high achievers, we are sort of we get adrenaline from that, knowing the next steps for us, right? And I'm pretty sure when you made that transition, you wouldn't have had any of that. So how did you deal with that confusion or that ambiguity at that point?
Yeah, such a good question. And I used to tell my mom all the time, I feel like put into um, I'm being thrown into the ocean and I don't know how to swim. And it was the perfect analogy for me, because I really felt like I was dealing with all of these health issues, relationship issues, relationship patterns. People were treating me in specific ways, and it was very, very repetitive. Um, I had no idea. I just felt like a victim all of the time. Um, but in that ambiguity, I was forced to figure out what was going on. I was forced to sort of sit with my sadness and really unpack it. And the thing about me is, I've sort of always been diligent, meaning self work. A lot of times I hate it. I'm just like, this sucks. I don't want to do any work on myself. I just want to go out as a young person and enjoy life, right? It's not always easy.
Yeah.
But I have always been sort of drawn to this avenue, drawn to sort of improving myself and seeing why I'm being met with these experiences that are so repetitive, that I said, okay, I don't know how to navigate this. I either can look for help. So I would look for community or someone else, or I used to talk to my breathwork coach. I used to talk to my family, who were always very supportive, um, just to try to unpack it, and a lot of times maybe you get realizations. I used to journal a lot, and journaling was really a tool that would help me sort of um, just draw out my thoughts that was all jumbled in my head, but now I'm able to see it in buckets and sort of understand it a little bit better. I was always very introspective, but the most important thing of all is during doing breath work, because during breath work, I used to go in and ask myself all of these questions like, what is happening? Why do I feel this way? I have two options. Should I go with this apartment or that apartment? I, have an option of getting promoted now. So breath work, because your mind is not involved, your conditioning is not involved, your fear is not involved. So you go to a place within yourself that's free of all of these sort of things that you've picked up as a child that now, if you're awake, affect your decision making process. I didn't have any of that. So when you go in, it's just your subconscious, and your subconscious is just your soul. It's pure. It knows what's best for you, for not you what you think, but you for your highest self. So I was almost referring back to breath work as like my personal psychic in a way. Like, what do I do here? And I used to write out the questions so that when I do go for my next session on the next Sunday, I used to sort of ask myself that. And it always used to be like, yeah, of course, like, duh, that kind of makes sense. But I would I have gotten to that conclusion without breath work? No, I would have probably been a little bit scared, right? Because sometimes the right thing is scary, right? The right thing makes you sad in a lot of times. Um, and I just didn't want to go there. But with breath work, it was almost like a confirmation of the things that I needed to do. So it really was very helpful for me.
Right. Beautiful. I think you touched upon so many important aspects in terms of unlearning and actually facing our fears, right? I think that's one of the biggest
Yeah.
challenges. All the conditioning that we're used to, it's difficult to actually confront what is our biggest fear and actually navigate that and get to the other side.
Correct. Yeah, it's so tough. And I think it's more the fear in our head is a lot of times bigger. Um, so it's like we just don't want to feel that fear versus anything else. And then when it comes, we can deal with it, or we can try in chunks. But in that period of time before we step into that fear, it's just probably the worst of it all.
Absolutely. So breathwork and journaling for the win there.
Mhm.
A little bit back, you mentioned this about taking responsibility and saying that I'm responsible for my choices and the consequences.
Mhm.
How would you say responsibility played a role in your transformation journey?
Yeah, so for the longest time, I was very much in victim mentality, right? I used to blame, my family. I was blaming that person and this person. Why are they treating me this way? Why is this not happening for me? Um, and when you do that, for me, I things never ever got better. Maybe I felt relief in the moment, but it never ever got better. So what I actually found was that if I started to take responsibility, first of all, not only is the thing that I'm looking at getting resolved, no, that's not about it, but it's just me taking back my power, right? My power that I've given to, X, Y, and Z. Once I have this power, and I know that it's because of me in some levels, to some degree, that all of these things have happened, I also know that I can use this very same power that I own to make the right changes, right? If I have the power to cause the situation to sort of crumble, I also have the power to cause the situation to really, really flourish. So it was about taking agency and realizing that what in me is causing this person and the next person and the other person to treat me this specific way that just makes me feel like shit. Like, what vibe am I sending off, or what am I saying, or how's my self-confidence, right? So obviously we all know self-confidence is a great example because people pick up on that, right? And for the longest time I was going into a lot of situations um, just with almost like an imposter syndrome. Even though I had all these qualifications, I really wasn't, it wasn't registering somehow. And I never took ownership of it and never really felt that it belonged to me. Almost like, oh, it was a fluke, or I aced. I got my master's degree, but I'm sure everyone has their master's degree these days, kind of thing, right? It's just never enough. Um, so that way, you're also not taking ownership of the things that do work for you. So it was about realizing that I do have sense of agency. I mean, everyone does. Of course, there are some exceptions, like when you're being sexually abused, when people are taking advantage of you in all these like repressive ways, right? People of color, they're being treated a certain way. I mean, I understand that there's no agency like being taken there. But for me, for my specific experience, all of the things that I were doing that were leading me to unhappiness was in the beginning because of ignorance, because I didn't know better. But once I did know better, I was also not taking responsibility. I was just throwing it on everyone else, right? So that sense of taking back that sense of agency was just the most powerful thing that I could have ever done for myself.
Right, powerful. So basically looking inward and taking actions from there.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. And if you were to reflect back on, that decision to move out of corporate America and do something of your own that felt right for you, was there like
Yeah.
a tipping point, or throughout your transformation journey, are there like certain moments that stand out, which now in retrospect, when you look back, that was the thing that changed your life in terms of the direction it took?
Yeah. So my physical body was just, I'd had enough, right? In my mind, I was so, I just couldn't come to terms with giving up this perfectly paying job, living in New York City, having this really beautiful apartment overlooking the Empire State. I was like, why would I be leaving this? I'm young. I'm single. Like, I want to just continue to pursue this. But my physical body had enough. So in the past, maybe 3 or 4 months before I'd left New York, it really became very, very bad. I had developed a lot of allergies. I was allergic to everything. I was allergic to fish, to plants, to dogs, to cats, to milk, to almonds, to all of these types of things where my face would just really flare up. I would go into meetings, come out of meetings just having full hives, right, because of stress. Um, I was, just unable to sleep. I had a lot of anxiety. I was very, very stressed. I was just really, really unhappy. My gut was really, really affected. And then I think the tipping point was when my mom came to visit me, and we had taken a trip to Florida from New York, and I stepped into a pile of fire ants, and it bit me. But the reaction that I got was I went into anaphylaxis. What that means is the body just goes into shock and it's basically shutting down, right? Because there is this external venom that comes in from the fire ants. And now the body is just like, what's happening? I need to shut down so that I can save you because we don't recognize this foreign substance. As a result of it, I lost my vision for that period of time. It was really, really bad. Like I was almost going into like a cardiac arrest. There was this ambulance, I fainted and stuff. So the way my body responded to something like that was a lot more dramatic than someone who was perfectly healthy in her 20s would have, right? Um, so I just realized that, my body was under so much stress that it just couldn't take anything else. At that point in time, I kind of knew that if I didn't make a serious decision about myself, my health would really be compromised. And, I would have to live with, once our health is messed up, it's so hard to get it back into balance with all about, regardless of the amount of money and time that you have, right? It's really hard to get back to that state. So I was just like, yeah, I think this is a good time because it was very, very hard. Even then, I still had dreams. I was still very hesitant. It was still very hard for me to quit. I did more breathwork sessions, and I still got the same answer, like, take a break. This isn't right for you. This is right for what you think is meant for yourself and your body, but you're not happy. Like, I wasn't happy in any way. So if I'm not happy, why am I holding on to these external things that just don't do it for me? You know?
Beautiful. And you've obviously been talking about how breathwork has been really transformative in your journey, and I think now a lot of us see breathwork as a tool in terms of uh, calming ourselves down, healing, performance. How do you see breathwork and performance working together?
Yeah, so how I see breathwork and performance is that there's so many different types of breathwork that can be used for so many different types of healing modalities. You have the pranayam type of breathwork where you use it to relax, to focus your mind, to sleep, to just regulate your breathing. You have breath work that is used for therapy, which is a lot of what I used to do. And, you got to experience that, which is releasing trauma, really regulating the nervous system, sort of calming down the body in terms of inflammation, releasing all of these old experiences that we hold on to in our subconscious. And then there's also the performance type of breath work, which I've been working a lot with in recent days, which is working with athletes and CEOs and people who are going to give big presentations, just people who have, a performance that they're hinging upon, or some people just who want to optimize their body and just want to be able to feel more energized, right? How breath work is important there is we are able to use the principles of biohacking. So when you do your breath work, how often you're doing your breath work. Are you doing breath work in between your workout, after workout? Are you doing it right before you're working out? So when you take these specific combinations and you mix them with specific types of breathing tools for specific lengths of time, and then you mix it with either a cold shower, or you mix it with certain types of foods, or you mix it with a rest period of 10 minutes of doing nothing, you are really able to prime the body. And, this is, again, part of the science that I've used, collecting it with this ancient tool of breathwork, right? Ancient tool of breathwork comes from ancient India. The science is recent. It's coming from Harvard and Stanford and Yale, and it's sometimes as fresh as 1 year or 6 months. We're using these tools, combining these tools with this this research with this ancient tool of breathwork, based on data that we have, right? They've done studies on 500 people, 300 people, 300 athletes, to show that it can really peak your performance. So you have an advantage sometimes of 15, 20, 30, even 40% more if you do specific combinations. So it's been incredible. I mean, there are boxers, world-class boxers right now, world-class wrestlers, NBA athletes. They're all using breathwork to prime their pre-game routine so that they're refreshed, they have that surge of energy, and they can go onto the court and just do their thing.
Right. I love how you light up when you talk about it, and
yeah,
you're so
it's so
passionate
exciting.
about it.
Thank you.
And you're doing such great work, and something that you really feel called to do, and that you love to do, and you seem to have created a space in terms of actually leveraging the ancient wisdom that's available for decades and centuries, and clubbing it with science to make it even more effective, even more potent as a tool today.
Yeah.
If you were to give advice for somebody who's probably starting out in their transformation journey, who are in a place where they're probably dissatisfied or disengaged at some level, but are not really sure what next, what would you tell them in retrospective?
Right. So what next, right? Maybe like someone who's trying to transition like a career. Is it like a specific to career maybe?
Yeah.
I would say it's so important to sort of see what's working for them at this point and what's not. So basically taking an inventory of what they like about their current situation, what they don't like about their current situation, and where they want to go. right? Maybe, they have 4 qualities that they really enjoy, 10 qualities that they don't like, and 2 qualities that they really want to experience. So it's about sort of understanding. So now they understand what they don't like. I would say focusing on the things that they do want, and just sort of going into that list and breaking it down a little bit. Like, why is it that you want these things? So writing it all out. So just now we said, come of the 2 qualities. So let's say the 2 qualities are remote work and having a $10,000 pay increase, for example, right? I would then tell them to list a little bit more about the things that they do want. So define your ideal role, define your ideal situation. How would your colleagues be? What work-life balance would you have? So sort of going into that list. Now, once they have that list that's extensive, I would like them to sort of take it a step further. So what of this list here is based on the thing that, first of all, you think you want versus the thing that you actually want, right? So for example, it's, have a fancy office. If, let's say, remote work is not important and they want to go to the office, but they want a fancy office. So I'll ask them, is that really, really important? Or is that just something that you think kind of looks cool for other people? So it's the optics that you're worried about. If it's the optics that you're worried about, okay, can it be eliminated? So basically, first eliminating what is just not truly important to them, first step. Second step, taking that list now that's already shaved down, and from that shaved down list, I would say boiling it down to the essence. So let's say they say, I want to be able to network with other people in the industry. So I'd ask them, what's the reason for this network that's important? They'll tell me, I would like to network because I really want to connect with other people in my industry, because I really want to be able to learn from other experts so that there's a lot of career progression and I can meet people, and I should be able to, know other people in the industry if I want to move jobs around. So then, we would say, okay, networking isn't really your criteria, but it's more job opportunity, or it's more a supportive community. Like, you want to be able to talk to other people, or you want to be able to learn from other people. So just from one, networking, we've kind of gone into the core essences of why you want these things. And this can be done for relationships. It can be done for other big decisions in your life. And the reason why it's so important is that you're tying your core wants, or you're tying the thing in your list to your core wants, to your authentic self, as opposed to just being, I want that fancy car, fancy house, and not really knowing why and if it's even important to you to begin with, right?
Great. So I think stripping down desires to its core essence and really seeing if it resonates for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Lovely. So are you ready to go into our rapid fire round?
I am.
Remi? Perfect. Okay. So we'll start with simple yes or no questions, and then we'll move into more elaborate answers to your transformation journey, right?
Yeah.
So very quickly, let's warm up. Are you a morning person or a night person?
Morning person.
Okay. On time or always late?
Always late.
Routines or go with the flow kind of a person?
A little bit of both, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Ideal weekend is reading with a book or hitting the clubs? Non-COVID times.
Definitely reading the books.
COVID or not COVID.
Right, exactly.
Okay. So one habit that you think you've incorporated in your life that has transformed everything in every aspect of your life?
One habit is the ability or the habit of being self-observant, being disappointed with myself without being critical.
Lovely. Could you elaborate on that a little more?
Yeah. So I it was very, I used to be able, if I did something wrong, I'd be very disappointed in myself and very hard on myself, right? And that was not going anywhere, because then I would be in the loop of disappointment and frustration, and it just go on. But I feel like the ability to sort of look at yourself, articulate that you're really not happy with the way things happened and not happy with the choices that were made, but just sort of being soft and lenient with yourself and just saying, you know what, you made a mistake, that's okay. Let's now see how this doesn't happen again, or how we can learn and move on from this. So the ability to be able to parent and still be soft and kind all in one is a tool that has allowed me to strengthen my relationship with myself while still pushing me forward to where I need to grow, basically.
Oh, amazing. There was this podcast that I was listening to where there was this advice that someone had given to the writer saying, write as a toddler and edit like you're a hard ass parent, right? In terms of actually get fine tuning your writing. I think that's
so true.
That's very similar to what you just said.
Exactly. That's on point. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Books or podcast?
Podcast.
Okay. What would your favorite top 3 recommendations of shows would be?
I've been listening to a lot of Mind Body Green. I listen to a lot of science-based podcasts. There's one called Heal Thyself with this functional doctor called Dr. Gonzalez. Okay. So Heal Thyself, Mind Body Green, and I also listen to the Goop podcast a lot. So all things health and wellness again.
Lovely. And was there any, if you were to pick, the top 3 role models, either in real life or fictional characters or anybody, celebrities that you know, were there role models that really inspired you, and what kind of qualities that you look up to them for?
Yeah, I think, I've not had to look so far. I've been able to have these role models right in my house. And I think I have a brother and I have my parents that I live with, and it's been really amazing because each person has qualities that I learn from on a daily basis. It's almost like a reminder. So, for example, my brother is a teacher for me to always aim for even higher, go for even more, grow, right? And he's a testament to how he's so sure of himself that if something is not a hell yes, he says no to it. So doesn't fear of missing out, doesn't fear about losing opportunities. It's just an easy no. And that's something that I have often struggled with, but I'm so much better with now. Then there's my mother, who is able to sort of not carry things that are tough into the next moment. So when something is tough, she's in the moment, dealing with it, and then moving forward. She's never ever said, oh, I'm tired or I'm exhausted. Whereas I feel like I sometimes carry things from the past, which is a very heavy mental load, and it just causes me tiredness or exhaustion. But for her, she sort of dissolves it in the moment and just carries on moment to moment. So she's basically living in the moment. And that for me is just such an incredible tool to be able to use throughout your life, right? And then I think my dad is the person who teaches me how to just be so compassionate and be kind no matter what. Right? So no matter how someone else is responding and how someone else is upset and rude, he's just able to just be calm and kind. And whereas for me, sometimes I'm just like, there's like fire coming out of my ears. But for him, he's just like, oh, respond with kindness. Like, why do you want to be like them? Right? And so these are the teachers that I have in my house on a daily basis. And sometimes it's like, oh my God, can you guys just be normal and like have emotions? But it's such a good, for me to have these things and to see on a daily basis.
Yeah, and such potent qualities. I mean, I think we could all use some of that. all three of that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. So if you had to, lessons that you probably learned the hard way, what would they be?
Yeah. I was just thinking about this like a couple of days ago. I was just like, life is just so short, right? I mean, when we're in high school or when we're kids and we're just like, oh my God, this is like forever. When am I going to finish school? Or life is just so long. But then, you hit your 30s and, you're just like, wow, that was really, really short, right? It just goes with a blink of an eye. So things that really matter to you or are big in your head sometimes are just big in your head, and they're never actually gonna go, be planted and actually happen. It's just so unimportant a lot of times. I remember spending a lot of my teenage years having all these like body issues and being so worried about myself, and I look back at photos now and I was like, wow, I was so cute. Like, what was I worried about, and why didn't I just like enjoy myself more instead of just being so ashamed about going to the beach and how other people would think about me? Like, why didn't I just go and eat more and have fun? And all of that time is gone and I can't get it back, right? So it's like, for me, it's so important now to, of course I have those thoughts about being conscious and all of that, but now I can tell myself, you know what, I've had a great experience and I'm going to separate from this thought. I don't claim it. And I want to continue to enjoy myself, right? So that's the thing, there's always going to be hardship in life. But for me, I learned that I need to always find the fun, because I'm not always going to have that opportunity. And that moment is never, ever going to come back. And so time is the most precious thing, most precious commodity. So really use it wisely.
Beautiful. I think I'm going to take that away. Find the fun.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a lovely way to look at life. Great. Okay. Top 3 books that you always have in your shelf, wherever you are.
Anatomy of the Spirit by Caroline Myss talks about the mind-body connection and how strong we have the power to influence our state of health. I think the next book that I would recommend is Instinct to Heal. It also is written by a medical doctor in the US, a French guy, who also talks about how we can use simple, practical, non-invasive, holistic tools to heal the body. So those two. And then my third recommendation would probably be Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. Because it's really sort of opened up my eyes and really such a great mystical book that uses science to talk about, the evolution of one's spirit.
Beautiful. Okay. One thing you'd want to tell yourself in the 20s. Or it can be more things also.
Yeah. Have fun, really. Like, go out and meet people and eat. Have those desserts, like wear whatever you want to wear. Like, don't be conscious. Just do whatever you want. Like, have those experiences, go to those concerts, like, have your heart broken. Don't be so scared of everything, like, experience life, like, make mistakes, just grow, just go through it all. Like, you're going to come out alive. Nothing's going to actually kill you. You're just going to grow from it. So just have more experiences and don't think too much about anything, basically.
Amazing. I think we've talked about so many things, but is there something that you would want the audience to take away from this conversation? And we spoke about breathwork, transformation, and so many other things. What is the one thing that you'd want them to take away?
I guess I would like to say, breathwork isn't just a tool for people who are trying to heal or people who are trying to deal with like past trauma and stuff, it can actually be used as a simple thing that you incorporate into your routine that really helps to change the tone of the day. It doesn't have to be long, it doesn't have to be 1 hour, it just is a short thing. And I find that personally for me, not waiting for when things get really, really tough and doing all these little things during the day helps to make sure that when times do get tough, I can stay afloat easily, right? So it's almost like you're not running a marathon, but you're jogging every day, you're optimizing your heart, you're making sure you're doing push-ups, you're conditioning your body now so that eventually when there is a day where you actually do need to run, you're ready. So when you do these self-care tools, whatever it is, I would really recommend breathwork being incorporated and meditation. You're really priming yourself when things get really stressful, because then you'll know how to respond better. Then your anxiety levels won't, go so high. Then your body won't go in shock. Then you won't develop inflammation because you know how to, just by using the breath, can control inflammation. So don't wait for things to get really tough. Do the work now. Just takes a couple of minutes a day and you're saving yourself. You're really putting money in the bank for later.
Do the work now. I think that's quite powerful. And thank you for bringing up routines. I think we missed talking about that. Are there any non-negotiables that are like must-haves in your everyday routine?
Yeah. So I try to not be so stringent to the point where I get stressed, but I give myself a quota. I'll say 4 to 5 times a week I have to meditate in the morning, so I do that. If I don't and I'm missing my quota because there's only 3 days left in the week, then I'll meditate at night, just making sure that I hit that quota without being stressed. I have a couple of things that I ask myself on a daily basis at night, like, how did today go? What was today, what about today that made you feel out of control? And what would you have done differently? When I do that, I'm able to process the day without taking it into the bedroom, into my night, into my sleep. My sleep quality is improved. So the meditation, the kind of going through my day, I will always find some form of movement, whether it's through yoga, walking, meditation, working out. I will always get a few minutes of sunlight every day. So go out, just looking at the sun, because there's so many biohacking benefits. It regulates your circadian rhythm, it activates your metabolism. I drink a ton of water. That's also sort of like part of my routine. It's like I just drink a ton of water. And I make sure that during the day when I'm stressed, I typically like to reach for my phone and go on Instagram, but I don't do that because when I'm on Instagram, it's not helping my stress level, it's just peaking it more. So I try not to do that. What else do I do that's a routine? A lot of physical contact. So I'm hugging my mom, hugging my brother to release all this oxytocin. I try to listen to podcasts whenever I can. Sometimes it just means, going into bed with some tea and just watching some Netflix. Whatever it is that I feel that I need in a nourishing way. And of course, eating very healthy, because that really affects my energy levels and, how my gut feels and how my skin eventually ends up. So I think I'm pretty religious about all these things, and they've almost, from sort of routine, they've almost sort of just become like how my day usually goes every single day.
Yeah, I think that's just part of routine, right? It becomes a part of you. So it's
it really does. Yeah.
When you list them out, it's so many, but then it's like it naturally flows during the course of the day.
It does. It just flows. Yeah. And it almost feels like it almost brings about some sense of security now, because I know that I'm doing whatever I can, for myself.
That agency and that responsibility also comes in, right? That you're taking care of yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Is there something that you're dying to tell the audience, Remi, that we probably missed out on?
I think we covered a lot of it. I'm just happy that we're able to talk about so many different things, and especially how breath work can really influence and, affect people's lives and just make such a big difference. I want to share that there's so much research coming out now of all these like top tier Ivy League universities. Stanford University does a lot of research on breath work and the power of breath work to really reverse aging. Basically, now there's a new study that's come out, and reverse aging, improve performance, improve energy level, and it's just simply because breath is it's our ticket to life, right? The moment we don't have breath, we don't have that ticket to live anymore. It's ended. The breath is the last thing that we will do on this earth, right? Yeah. The last thing that we do is we breathe, and then that's it. And we don't have breath, we aren't able to live anymore. It's also the first thing that we do on earth. First thing we do is we breathe, and then we start to cry. Yeah. So it's so important. And if we're not breathing correctly, so aside from just breath work, if we're not breathing correctly, it means that oxygen is not going to all of the organs in the body, which means how well the organs respond to things, to the food, to the stress, to environmental toxins is also compromised. Okay. So people say, or most people breathe, for example, most people breathe up and down, so that's not really right. We're supposed to be breathing sideways, so our belly is supposed to be expanding sideways. So just optimizing and creating these little shifts and changes can help slow down the aging process, the integrity of our skin, how much energy levels we have, the amount of focus we're able to bring to the table at work, how well we sleep, all these things, right? How well our digestion works. It helps to calm down inflammation. So it's just so simple, but it's just so many benefits. And if anyone would like to sort of chat with me a little bit more about this, I'd be happy to speak with absolutely anyone to answer any questions.
Great. And if they'd like to connect with you, what would be the preferred medium of communication? Website, social media?
Yeah, so my social media on Instagram, my handle is @BalanceMethod. So just balance and method, simple 2 words. I can also be found through my website, which is createbalancemethod.com. So Create Balance Method is the website, and Balance Method is the Instagram handle.
Perfect. So for all those listening in, I think I'll share the links to both of that as well. So you can directly go there from our website and get in touch with Remi.
Perfect. That'd be helpful.
Yeah. Thank you so much once again for doing this.
My pleasure.
I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and I'm sure the audience is going to love it as well. Thank you for taking such time in the morning, and really great to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Shraddha. This was amazing. I really enjoyed sharing my story and my ideas. So thank you.
Lovely.